Hi, very good morning. I'm Dr. Janak Patel. Yes, I'm not an endocrinologist, but we are going to discuss something on endocrine disorders. Today we are going to talk regarding an anterior pituitary, little amount of anatomy, little amount of physiology, action of different hormones, etc. So you know pituitary gland is divided into two, anterior pituitary and posterior pituitary, or we call adenohypophysis, neurohypophysis. So we are going to talk at present regarding anterior pituitary. So pituitary gland is also called as pituitary gland or master gland because it secretes lot of hormones which has got effect on multiple target organs, almost good number of endocrine system. So we'll be talking little bit regarding anatomy, functions, action of different hormones, what are secreted by anterior pituitary, what are the different disorders, investigations, and in general treatment and complications. Now we have already discussed this particular part of anatomy in posterior pituitary, but still we are putting it together. This is sella turcica. This is a part of a sphenoidal bone, or also called as a pituitary fossa or hypophyseal fossa. This is anterior portion. This is the posterior portion. This is anterior pituitary lobe. This is the posterior pituitary lobe. This posterior pituitary lobe is also called as pars nervosa, and this particular is called pituitary stalk or infundibular stalk or neuronal stalk, which is connecting it to the hypothalamus, and this stalk will contain axonal fibers of paraventricular nucleus and supraoptic nucleus. Those particular are the neuroendocrine system cells, and they manufacture oxytocin and ADH. They are secreted, manufactured and secreted, and then they are transported across the axons to the end of the axons where they are stored in vesicles. So in a posterior pituitary or we pars nervosa, you get the end of the axon fibers of paraventricular and supraventricular nucleus. Supraoptic nucleus and paraventricular nucleus. While anterior pituitary is a glandular structure, it contains different types of cells. We call as a chromophobe cells, chromophil cells, or eosinophil cells, and basophil cells. And this particular portion is called as pars distalis. The portion which is in close contact between the anterior pituitary, that is pars distalis, and pars nervosa is called pars intermedia, which is usually containing a fibrous tissue. And the portion of anterior pituitary which is in close contact with the infundibular stalk is called infundibulum. This particular complete portion is called infundibulum, and the part of anterior pituitary which is encircling the infundibular stalk is called pars tuberalis. So these are the different parts of what we call as anterior pituitary gland. Now roughly it is 13 millimeter by 9 millimeter by 6 millimeter, and weight is around 0.4 to 0.9 kg, 9 gram, sorry. It is little larger in women, larger in multiparous women, and during pregnancy the weight may be 0.9 to 1 gram. So this is the size of pituitary gland and the weight of pituitary gland. It is in a sella turcica. This is sella turcica. This is sphenoidal bone. This is anterior part. This is a posterior part. This is a hypothalamus. So superiorly it is related to hypothalamus, inferiorly related to sphenoidal bone, posteriorly related to the petrous part of temporal bone, and anteriorly it is related to the nasal cavity. This particular portion will be related to the nasopharynx part, nasal cavity part. So this is a sphenoidal bone, and laterally it is related to cavernous sinus on two lateral sides, and that cavernous sinus will contain internal carotid artery plus third, fourth, and sixth cranial nerve. Third, fourth, and sixth cranial nerve, and V1 and V2 division of trigeminal. So it contains all this nerve. So if there is some pathophysiology of a pituitary gland, it can produce a damage to these structures as well as hypothalamus, as well as hypothalamus. So it can produce a damage to that particular part. So this is a anterior clinoid process, this is a posterior clinoid process, and you will have a diaphragm sela here, diaphragm sela, it is called diaphragm sela. So that will be separating from middle cranial fossa. So this is that particular anterior clinoid, posterior clinoid, pituitary gland. These are the two cavernous sinus, inferiorly sphenoidal sinus. This is the portion in the nasal cavity. This is optic chiasma, which is related to pituitary stalk anteriorly. And in this cavernous sinus, you have got internal carotid artery, fourth cranial nerve, sixth cranial nerve, and trigeminal V1, V2 branch, which we already shown you. V1, V2 branch. The maxillary branch, maxillary division does not come in a cavernous sinus. It is hardly anything. So third, fourth, and sixth cranial nerve are present in this particular. Third cranial nerve is also present. So you will have a damage to those nerves if there is any pathophysiology like tumors of pituitary gland, which can produce a compression and damage to optic chiasma. And then this is a portion of hypothalamus. This is third ventricle. This is a portion of hypothalamus. Pituitary word was derived from a Greek word called pitio, to spit, and Latin word is pitua, that is mucus. So that was the word derived. It is called master gland because it secretes lot of hormones which controls many other endocrine glands. So it controls lot of other endocrine glands like thyroid, adrenal gland, gonads, etc. This already we have discussed. This is a part of a hypothalamus. This is supraoptic nucleus and supraoptic nucleus. There is paraventricular nucleus. This secretes ADH. This secretes oxytocin. These are neuroendocrine systems. These are the axon fibers which runs in a stalk. This is arcuate nucleus. The fiber of this and other, they will secretes the hormone, and those hormones will be secreted directly into what we call as a portal system, and they will act on an anterior pituitary gland. Now this particular part is connecting hypothalamus to neurohypophysis. That's why it is called hypothalamo-hypophyseal tract, which is present in infundibulum part of the neurohypophysis, or we call the pituitary stalk or neural stalk, while anterior pituitary is not in connection with the hypothalamus. It is having pars tuberalis, pars distalis. This is called pars nervosa, and this particular is called tuberalis, and the portion which is in close contact with the posterior pituitary, this is pars intermedia, and this together, all this portion, tuberalis, intermedia, and distalis, is called anterior pituitary, or we call adenohypophysis. Adeno means glandular tissue. Neurohypophysis consisting of a neuronal tissue. So that is the little bit about the neuroanatomy. And this particular, from here, the fiber which goes up to this particular portion, that is called tuberohypophyseal tracts. These are tuberohypophyseal tracts, which comes from the supraoptic nucleus, is called supraoptic hypophyseal tracts. So it comes from here. So those are the different name given to those particular structures. The anterior pituitary or adenohypophysis is called master gland. It consists of two parts, pars distalis and pars tuberalis. Plus you should also include pars intermedia. Pars intermedia. So two parts, pars distalis and tuberalis, which is a portion in contact with the infundibulum, while this is consisting of endocrine tissue. Sorry, this I should have mentioned, that pars intermedia is an avascular tissue. Usually it is between anterior and posterior lobe. It exists in fetus, but in adult it is no longer present, or it is a fibrous tissue only. And in fetus, it was secreting certain hormones, particularly MSH. Anterior lobe, pars distalis, intermedia, and tuberalis, while posterior lobe is called pars nervosa. Now, pars distalis, that is this part, we call anterior pituitary, contains different types of cells. We call pink cells or acidophil cells, which secretes growth hormone and prolactin. While there are purple cells or we call basophil cells, which are little darker in color, dark purple color, which secretes corticotropin, TSH, that is thyroid stimulating hormone, follicle stimulating hormone, and luteinizing hormone. These together are called gonadotropic hormones. So it secretes these three hormones. So there are two names given to that. Acidophilic cells or called epsilon cells. This will secrete growth hormone and prolactin. While basophil cells or we call delta cells, which will secrete corticotropic, TSH, FSH, LH. So that will be the four hormones secreted by basophil cells. Now in these basophil cells, there are delta cells, beta cells, and gamma cells. So these are the different names given depending upon what they secretes. So you've got alpha cells, epsilon cells, delta cells, beta cells, and gamma cells. These are the different names given to those. So embryonically it is derived from a Rathke's pouch, and histologically it contains chromophil cells, which you call acidophilic or epsilon cells, which will secrete two somatotropes or we call growth hormones, and lactotropes we call as a prolactin. The production of growth hormone is 30 to 40%, and prolactin accounts for 3 to 5% of anterior pituitary secretion. Basophil cells are also called as a delta cells. They secrete corticotropic hormone we call ACTH, that is 20%, thyrotropic hormone 3 to 5%, and gonadotropic 3 to 5%. So these are the different hormones secreted by acidophilic cells and basophilic cells. These are called chromophil cells. And one cell type will be secreting, and there will be feedback mechanisms. Pars intermedia will be secreting MSH, but in adult this secretion is almost negligible. In adults, some cells of adenohypophysis derived from fetal pars intermedia. Those are called pro-opiomelanocortin, POMC, pro, P, opio, O, melano, M, cortin. So they will secrete endorphin, that is opioid, MSH, that is this M, melano, and C for corticotropic, ACTH. So in adults, sometimes adenohypophysis may contain some of the cells which are large polypeptide prohormone called pro-opiomelanocortin, which will be a major products, like it will give rise to beta endorphin, melanocyte stimulating hormone, and adrenocorticotropic hormones. So these are the three hormones which can be manufactured by other types of cells which you can derive from fetal pars intermedia. Mainly it was secreting MSH, but sometimes it can also have pro-opiomelanocortin hormone secretions, and that will give rise to endorphin, MSH, and ACTH. Arterial supply we have already done a little bit regarding arterial supply. A branch from internal carotid artery, superior and inferior hypophyseal branch, from anterior cerebral artery, and also from posterior cerebral artery. This makes an arterial supply, and this will form a plexus we call as a hypothalamo-hypophyseal portal system, and then it will be drained into cavernous sinus. The branches of superficial hypophyseal artery, superior hypophyseal artery, forms a ring around the upper part of the pituitary stalk and further to form a capillary network, and then it will end into a portal system. So this will be a arterial supply, and then it will form a portal venous system, and that will be drained into surrounding cavernous sinus, etc. And all the hormones of hypothalamus secreted other than supraoptic and paraventricular nucleus will be secreted into directly into that portal venous system, and through the portal venous system it will have effect on anterior pituitary cells, and that will release the hormone which will be directly released into hypophyseal veins, and this hypophyseal vein will have effect on target organs like thyroid gland, adrenal glands, gonads, etc. So pituitary gland anterior lobe secretes lot of hormones. We have already shown you in hypothalamus. In those particular slide we have already mentioned that growth hormone, ACTH, TSH, prolactin, FSH, luteinizing hormone, MSH. It will have two groups of hormones, one secreted from anterior lobe and one which are stored in posterior lobe and secreted out during stimulation, that is ADH and oxytocin. Now this slide already I have shown you before. The hormone which are secreted by anterior pituitary we call as a trophic hormones, means they will stimulate a target organ further, and they will also high level of those will give rise to target organ hypertrophy, and low level will give rise to target organ atrophy. So they stimulate the second endocrine system, means a TSH will stimulate thyroid gland, ACTH will stimulate adrenal cortex, and the name applied to the hormone is shortened tropic, meaning attracted to. That's why APH ends with suffix tropin. So this is the way corticotropin stimulating hormone, that way thyrotropic stimulating hormone. So these are the term. Trophic hormones is a term which is being utilized, and they will act on targets endocrine cells and stimulates that particular to secrete the hormones. This diagram I already shown you. Gonadotropic hormone, growth hormone, thyroid releasing factor, prolactin releasing factor. So this particular hormone will stimulate anterior pituitary to release certain hormones. Say GnRH will stimulate FSH to be released. So FSH release will now act on a gonads and will be acting on ovary as well as testis, while growth hormone releasing factor will stimulate the secretion of anterior pituitary growth hormone secretions. TRH will stimulate TSH, PRH will stimulate prolactin, CRH will stimulate ACTH, while somatostatin will inhibit growth hormone as well as TSH, while prolactin inhibition will inhibit prolactin, and TRH will also be able to stimulate prolactin simultaneously. So this is the complete action what you can. So these are hypothalamic hormone we call releasing factor or inhibitory factors, and these are called trophic hormones which will be acting on a distal endocrine organs. So these are the diagram which is showing you the hormone, stimulator, inhibitors, target organs, and what is the effect. So this is corticotropes, gonadotropes, thyrotropes, lactotropes, somatotropes. And this particular corticotropes, that is ACTH, it is stimulated by CRH or by AVP, and it will be inhibited by glucocorticoids. This ACTH will have an effect on adrenal gland and produce steroid production and release of steroid hormones. Gonadotrope are FSH-LH, which are stimulated by gonadotrope releasing hormone and by estrogen, and they are inhibited by inhibin and sex steroids, and they will have effect on ovary and testis, and they will stimulate the follicular growth, germ cell production, maturation, and many other functions. We'll be dealing in detail when we do the action of those particular hormones. TSH stimulated by TRH, inhibited by T3T4, dopamine, somatostatin and growth hormone. Target organ is thyroid gland and it will synthesize and secrete T3T4. So it is inhibited by this. So this is an important slide which tells you what stimulates the production by a pituitary gland, which factors inhibits, which target organs is affected, and what is the production by the target organs. So prolactin is stimulated by estrogen and TRH, also by prolactin itself. Lactotropes, that is prolactin, will stimulate target organ, that is breast and other tissue, while dopamine will inhibit prolactin, that is prolactin inhibitory hormone, and the effect on a breast is a milk production and milk ejection. Somatotropes, that is growth hormone, is stimulated by growth hormone releasing factor or growth hormone stimulator. It is inhibited by somatostatin and IGF-1 activins. It will act on a target organ, that is liver, bone, muscles, etc. And it will produce IGF-1 on a growth production, induction, growth induction, insulin antagonism, etc. So these are the different effects of this particular hormone on those target glands together. Now these are all the slides which will tell you this is a growth hormone, this is the target tissue, what does it do, thyroid hormone, what it will do on the thyroid gland, ACTH on adrenal cortex, gonads, luteinizing hormones, what it will do, and prolactin will be acting on a mammary gland, and this is the effect. We have already mentioned before, so I am skipping over that particular thing. This is again a slide showing you the same thing. FSH-LH acting on a gonads. What are the hormones secreted from gonads? Estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. It will have effect on gametes, gametocytes, corpus luteum, ovulation. Growth hormone will have an effect on multiple tissue, protein synthesis, lipolysis, blood glucose elevation. TSH will have an effect on thyroid gland, will increase the production of T3T4 and thyroid gland enlargement. Prolactin will have an effect on mammary gland, milk production, breast development, regulates female reproductive system. ACTH will have effect on adrenal cortex and will stimulate the cortex to produce glucocorticoid and mineralocorticoid, glucocorticoid as well as mineralocorticoid. And this is the entire picture showing you anterior pituitary secretion, growth hormone, TSH, ACTH, FSH, LH, prolactin, and this is by posterior pituitary. And what is the effect of an anterior pituitary hormone on which organs? This is on growth, this is thyroid gland, adrenal gland. What are the hormones secreted? This is testis, ovary, ovulation, sperm development, testosterone secretion, estrogen, progesterone production, and action on ovary. This is prolactin acting on a breast glandular tissue, and these are the posterior pituitary hormones we have already discussed before. So this is again a same diagram presented in a different pattern. These are all the different hormones of anterior pituitary. These are all the different hormones of anterior pituitary and where the action is, which hormone is acting, etc. So all those are again narrated here. Same thing shown here. These are all those we call as a, this here is anterior pituitary hormone. This is by pars intermedia, MSH, while ovarian are FSH, LH, prolactin, growth hormone, TSH and ACTH. So these are all multiple slides you can go through. Regulation we already discussed in a common, that is it is controlled by hypothalamus. It has got negative feedback mechanisms, short loop, long loop. It is also controlled by cyclical control, or we call circadian cycle or chronotropic effects. It has got a neurological control by means of hypothalamus. Hypothalamus will be acting on a pituitary gland by release of those different hormones. So hypothalamus will be releasing hormones, that is turn on it will release inhibitory hormone, that is turn off, and it will stimulate or inhibit the anterior pituitary to secrete the hormone or to inhibit the hormone. This is roughly one example what has been given, and we have shown you before that hypothalamus say release gonadotropic releasing hormone. So in anterior pituitary it will stimulate the production of FSH-LH. This FSH-LH will act on a gonads. It will produce estrogen, testosterone, and this particular hormone, estrogen and testosterone, they will have an inhibitory effect on anterior pituitary and reduces the production of FSH-LH. This is called short loop negative feedback, inhibits the action of GnRH, while it will be acting on a hypothalamus and it will inhibit the release of GnRH. So inhibits the secretion of GnRH. This is a long loop negative feedback. This is long loop negative feedback. So that is how the feedback system is. So this is short loop, this is long loop. There is something called as a ultra short loop, in which the trophic hormones of anterior pituitary can inhibit the production or inhibit the action of releasing hormone in anterior pituitary. That will be ultra short loop. So some of the hormones can have that particular ultra short loop. Same way, say testosterone inhibits the target organs like testis. So that will be ultra short loop feedback system. This is again the same diagram. Hormone 1 say TRH, hormone 2 TSH, target organs thyroid gland secreting T34. T34 inhibits anterior pituitary to release TSH. So this will be a short loop, and it inhibits the hypothalamus to release TRH. This is long loop, and if this TRH itself inhibits the hypothalamus to release, it will be ultra short loop. So these are the different things. This is the same diagram showing you 3 layer, that is hypothalamus stimulating the anterior pituitary and anterior pituitary having an action on the target endocrine glands, that is thyroid, adrenal cortex, gonads, etc. And what are the effects? It is shown in a different diagrams. You can go through your leisure time. We have already discussed all those parts. So these are how exactly acts hypothalamus on anterior pituitary, whether excitatory or inhibitory, and that particular hormone which is the target organ. This is the third layer. This is first anterior pituitary, and this is the third layer, or we call as a target endocrine glands, and this is the secretion of those particular endocrine glands. This is same explained on which are the target organs, what are the effects, what are the hormones secreted. Different diagrams are there. Now we are going to talk about what we call as a different types of tumors. We divide into different names. Supracellular, intracellular means inside the sella turcica and above the sella turcica. The tumor may be functioning or may be non-functioning. So if it is non-functioning, it is called silent, meaning that tumor is not secreting any particular hormones. It can be a small tumor which can be a very small in size. That's why it is called micro, and good number of times this is not diagnosed. So even it is called accidentaloma. While if it is a big tumor easily diagnosed by radiology or by radionucleotide study, then we call that as a macroadenoma. And depending upon the secretions, you classify them into that particular tumor. You name that particular tumor, what it is secreting. And you can classify according to the histopathology also. Chromophobe tumors, chromophile tumors, etc. Acidophile tumors, eosinophilic tumors, depending upon the histopathological. Or you can say adenoma, adenocarcinoma, or just hypertrophy, hyperplasia. So adenoma, adenocarcinoma, hyperplasia. Just increase in number of cells and size of cells. Then you call hyperplasia. These are all the terms which are being utilized. So you can have an intracellular tumor, supracellular tumor. Functioning tumor means it is secreting some hormone. Non-functioning tumor means it is not secreting any of the hormones. Size wise, micro and macro. Depending upon the secretions, suppose if it is secreting prolactin, prolactinoma, that way. So depending upon what hormone it is secreting, so that will be hypersecretions. And depending upon the histopathology, chromophobe tumors, chromophil tumors, etc. And depending upon the other type of a histopathology, that is adenoma, adenocarcinoma, and hyperplasia. These are the words which are being commonly utilized. Do remember all this terminology. Pituitary tumors. So if it is inside, say this is outside, this is supracellular. This is inside the cella turcica, so this is intracellular. And this is intracellular and in the posterior lobe. This is anterior lobe. So this is a posterior lobe tumor. And this particular, if it is hypersecreting, it will produce a particular syndrome. And if it destroys, it will produce decreased production. So because of destruction, decreased production of ADH hormone, it will produce diabetes insipidus. So depending upon that, because of increased production, it will produce hyper on whatever organ it is acting. And because of destruction of the nearby tissue, those cells will not produce those hormones. Say as for example, this tumor is say producing TSH. So TSH overproduction will be there. It will produce secondary thyrotoxicosis, but it will compress other cells. Say it will compress, TSH is produced from basophil cells. So it will compress say alpha cells. And when alpha cells are compressed or eosinophil cells are compressed or epsilon cells we call, growth hormone and prolactin production will be reduced or will be absent. So depending upon that, opposite of that, if there is an eosinophilic tumors, it will compress beta cells. So thyroxine, TSH, ACTH and FSH-LH production will be reduced and those will go into hypo. So hypogonadism, hypoadrenalism and hypothyroidism. So this will be that particular effect. You should remember that. So 30% of the cells, tumors are prolactin adenoma, 15% are growth hormone adenoma and ACTH and gonadotropic are 10%. You can see TSH cell adenoma is only 1% and non-functioning adenoma is accounting for 25%. So major are these four groups. Major are these four. So this is accounting for almost we can say 65%. 65% and 25% are non-functioning. And when they are non-functioning, usually they do not produce hyper or hyposecretions by itself. But because of that tumor, the surrounding structures are compressed and they will always produce hypopituitarism depending upon which cells are compressed more. So accordingly that. Plus all this tumor will produce space occupying lesion, raise intracranial pressure and that will have effect on intracranial pressure and surrounding structures. Three common surrounding structures: hypothalamus, optic chiasma. So compression of the optic chiasma will produce bitemporal hemianopia. It can compress hypothalamus and can have effect on hypothalamus. It will have a damage to clinoid process. There will be widening of a pituitary fossa. There will be raised intracranial pressure. And this raised intracranial pressure will have separation of sutures, silver bitten appearance, and herniation. While locally inside the pituitary fossa, it will compress the different cells other than those adenoma. So those other cells are compressed, the production of those cells are affected and they will produce hypo. So if prolactin cells are affected, hypoprolactin, ACTH, hypoadrenalism, gonadotropes are compressed, so hypogonadism, TSH cells are compressed, so hypothyroidism. All this will be secondary. All this will be secondary. And when it expands, it can also compress the structures which are present in cavernous sinus. And when it compresses a structure in cavernous sinus, it will give rise to compression of the third, fifth, sixth cranial nerve. So third cranial nerve palsy, sixth cranial nerve palsy, plus in fifth cranial nerve V1, V2 branch, that is supraorbital and maxillary division. So these two branch will be affected. Maxillary division is usually spared. So that will be the effect on the third, sixth and fifth cranial nerve. Fourth cranial nerve may or may not be affected. So these are the effect what you will come across in a pituitary tumors. If time permits, we'll be discussing separately in a pituitary tumors. As such, almost major part of a pituitary tumors are discussed here. If it is a non-secreting tumors, so it will be normal. But because of compression, it will have decreased production and then it will give rise to hypo. If it is secreting tumors, initially hypersecretion of that one particular hormone, but because of pressure effect, raised intracranial pressure, headache, vomiting, blood vision because of papilledema, decreased production by other cells of anterior pituitary which will produce hypofunction of other cells other than what is secreted by tumor cells. So that will be there. Pressure effect on optic chiasma, either homonymous hemianopia or bitemporal hemianopia. Cavernous sinus, it will compress third cranial nerve, fourth cranial nerve and sixth cranial nerve. Pituitary gland can be completely destroyed because of pressure effects. You can get pituitary apoplexy, and if all the hormone production decreases, you can get pan-hypopituitarism. If it is a non-secreting tumor compressing the rest of the secreting cells of a pituitary gland, then you will have a pan-hypopituitarism. All pituitary hormones of anterior as well as posterior pituitary can be affected. These are the different findings which you can come across in a person with a tumor. So tumor will produce a mass effect, stretching of dura, producing headache, hydrocephalus, visual field defects, particularly nasal retinal fibers are compressed, so it will produce bitemporal hemianopia. These nasal fibers are affected, so these particular fibers are affected, nasal fiber producing bitemporal hemianopia, cranial nerve palsy, and cerebrospinal fluid can also leak out, producing cerebrospinal rhinorrhea. Hence, pituitary disorders are divided into two big groups. One we call as a normal secretions and second abnormal secretion. Abnormal secretion can be hypersecretions or hyposecretions. Hypersecretion are usually because of increase in the secreting gland number, size, like hyperplasia, or secreting gland tumors, adenoma, or malignant tumor of those secreting gland, adenocarcinoma, or sometimes in a person who has got a multiple endocrine adenomas called multiple endocrine adenomatosis, where you can have a pituitary, you can have a thyroid, you can have an adrenal gland tumor together. So that is called MEA, multiple endocrine adenomatosis, or the hormones same as adrenal, same as adenohypophysis, or we call as the adrenal gland, may be secreted by an ectopic tissue, maybe teratomas or maybe a tumors which are not in the adrenal gland but they are outside the adrenal gland, like lung carcinoma, particularly small cell carcinoma, or we call oat cell carcinoma, which can secrete ACTH, which can secrete TSH and produce what we call as a paraneoplastic syndromes, and these are called ectopic secretions, and they will produce hyper condition. These are all secondary. These are all secondary. And you person who is receiving thyroid replacement therapy from outside, but extra dose is given, little higher dose is given, it will produce a condition we call as iatrogenic hyper production. So hyperaction. While hypo is very common because of a post-surgical removal of the gland itself, portion of the gland or complete gland, or destruction because of radiation, because radiation is one of the common therapy in adenocarcinoma, or you are giving a drug which blocks the secretion of that hormone in a case of a hypersecretions, or because of the vascular damage like we call as a hemorrhage or vascular occlusions, autoimmune disorders because of an autoimmune process there is either a stimulation or inhibition, or because of infection there is a destruction, or because of some genetic factor there is a decreased production of that particular hormone. So that will be hyposecretions condition. These are in general the hyposecretion condition of pituitary glands, which we'll be discussing separately in hypopituitarism. If pituitary gland is at defect and it is either producing hypersecretion or hyposecretions, it is called primary disorders. And if hypothalamus is at a fault and producing hyposecretion or hypersecretions, then it is called secondary pituitary disorders, secondary hyperpituitarism or secondary hypopituitarism. Also, this androgenic will be put into secondary groups. Secondary groups. Ectopic will be put into secondary groups. So these are the different labeling of pituitary disorders. So anterior pituitary you get hypersecretions like gigantism, acromegaly, which are growth hormone disorders, or mixture of the two, acromegalic gigantism. If there is an hypersecretion of ACTH, Cushing disease. Prolactin hypersecretions we call amenorrhea, and TSH hypersecretion we call as a Graves disease. So this will be Graves disease because of autoimmune, and hyposecretions because of decreased production of growth hormone we call as a dwarfism or acromicria. All panhypopituitarism we call Simon's disease. If FSH-LS production is decreased, you get infertility, impotency, amenorrhea. Decreased production of ACTH, we get Addison's. Decreased production of TSH, we get cretinisms. These are the anterior pituitary. We are not talking about posterior pituitary at present, but decreased production of ADH hormone will produce diabetes insipidus, and increased production will produce SIDH. While both together, anterior and posterior pituitary, if there is a decreased production because of destruction of anterior as well as posterior pituitary together, sometimes in this particular there is a lot of different hormones are being affected. It will produce obesity and hypogonadism, and there is a dystrophia. So dystrophia adiposa genitalis, classical example Frawley syndrome, Lawrence Moon-Biddle syndromes, those are the examples of those. So these are anterior pituitary disorders we have already mentioned: growth hormone, ACTH, TSH, prolactin, FSH-LH, etc. This we'll be discussing separately. In investigations, history, physical examination, systemic examination is absolutely necessary. Hormone level assay to find out normal, hypo or hyper. Radiological study to find out the tumors, effect of tumors. Radionucleotide study will again tell you to identify the size, how much uptake it is taking, functioning, non-functioning, etc. There should be an investigation to find out the effect of hormone or less effect of hormone on the target organs. In case of hyper, inhibitory test, and in case of hyposecretion, stimulatory tests are common. Management wise, we have already shown you in general aspects. If there is a hyposecretions, always replacement therapy is one part of it, and in hypersecretions, this is hormone replacement therapy, and in hypersecretion, drugs to block the secretions or to block the action of that particular hormone which is hypersecreted. Then radiotherapy to destroy the condition which produces hypersecretion like adenoma, adenocarcinoma, etc. Or surgical intervention to remove that tumors. In case of symptomatic treatment, also in case of hypersecretion, you can utilize some drugs to have symptomatic relief or treat the basic etiology if it is possible. As far as pituitary tumors are concerned, it can produce hyperpituitarism or hypopituitarism, raised intracranial pressure, and secondary effect because of raised intracranial pressure, cranial nerve palsy, homonymous hemianopia. If it compresses one side of optic chiasma, it can produce that side homonymous hemianopia, and it produces the compression of the central part of optic chiasma. Nasal fibers are affected, cross nasal fibers are affected, producing bitemporal homonymous hemianopia. Bitemporal homonymous hemianopia. Because of overproduction of ADH, SIDH, acromegaly, gigantism, because of increased production of growth hormone, decreased production of ADH, diabetes insipidus, decreased production of a growth hormone, dwarfism, etc. These are all the things, information regarding anterior pituitary. I hope this will be helpful to you.